So once we've introduced the major joints independently, I want to make sure that I finish the movement literacy piece by bringing everything together and then trying to help them understand how these things are all interrelated. And remember, when we're talking with athletes, we're just going for that surface level, rudimentary understanding. It does not need to be complex. It does not need to be detailed. So right on cue, with my Mr. Incredible diagram here, talking about kinetic relationships, the number one thing that I'm going to try to emphasize with them is just how everything affects everything else and how it's all interrelated. So we want to make sure that they understand that there's no isolation, there's nothing that's done purely in a singular direction or fashion, and that everything is going to correspond. So I'll just take a simple example of saying, for instance, if you have trauma or an injury history at the right shoulder, there's good indication that the left hip is going to be compromised or going to be impaired in some way, shape, or form. So if we have an issue with the left hip, then we're going to see something corresponding at the right knee, and then again, similarly, right knee to left foot. This is one where it kind of gives them that aha moment of like, oh, well, I've wondered why I had a shoulder problem, but I'm having trouble or getting impingement on my left hip. People don't relate things like that, so that's our job to help kind of put it into light for them. In addition to that, I'll go through the joint-by-joint concepts, which was largely, popularized or introduced by Mike Boyle, and just get them to understand this contrasting relationship of mobility versus stability. So whereas the shoulder is a highly mobile joint, for the elbow, we're going to see more of a stability demand. And then below the elbow at the wrist, we'll get back to more of a mobility demand. So they can kind of put these pieces together and then understand, again, just the basic kinetic relationships throughout the body. Lastly, again, just iterating to them that everything in human anatomy is all unified. Everything affects everything. Getting them to understand how foot position can play into a throw release, getting them to understand how head position can take away from trunk mechanics. All of these things are very low-hanging fruit that you can take and apply to everything that's going to follow during the training process.